Hi readers, welcome to Author Spotlight, and this is an accidental Author Spotlight. So, when I was doing my weekend books recording for this week, I accidentally left out a book. And the excuse I'm giving myself is that it was not like it was a pre-order. It wasn't something that I planned on getting. I thought it would take a few more days, but it wasn't something that, wasn't like a regular buy. This was a special buy, and I'll tell you all about it at the end, but it gave me an excuse to do an author spotlight on one author this time, and one of my favorite authors, and that is Philip Fracassi. I'm going to save the best for last, so I'll start to tell you about a few of the books that I have about Philip, and then I'll talk about my special order and my favorite. So, at the end of 2022, I chose my last book as a rather long book that I had been holding out on. I'm not going to tell you what it was, but I loved that book right now. I loved that book so much that I immediately, Philip Fracassi has become an auto-buy author for me. So, after I read that book, I went to find some old books, and all I could find initially, it's not all I could find. Anywho, the first book after that I got was Commodore, and I think it's really a novella. It is less than 100 pages. It's about young boys who, well, let's see. I don't have my glasses here with me, but I will try to read as best I can. Welcome to the town of Sabbath, where the locals, even the initiated ones, are caught off guard every now and then, despite what they know. That's just the way of the universe, after all. Always expanding. New things coming through mysterious dimensions of time and space to land in the heart of our everyday world. In other words, Sabbath has become a gateway to all the strange and unusual things the great multiverse has to offer. The Commodore, for instance. The Commodore is a car, and it is it's like a junk car, I guess. And these boys get in the car. It's at a junkyard. They get in the car, and then some wild things happen. I wonder if Fracassi has other books set in the town of Sabbath. I'll have to look into that. Maybe save that for weekend books when I don't have much already on order. The next book that I read, this was published, I think I auto-bought this or pre-ordered this. This was published in 2023. I had it on pre-order, and that is Gothic. I swear, the 20s just feel like one long year. Because Boys in the Valley also came out in 2023, I think. Huh. It says copyright 2021. Okay, the first edition, it was published. The first edition in 2023. I am not going crazy. Anywho, let's get back to Gothic. On his 59th birthday, Tyson Parks, a famous but struggling horror writer, receives an antique desk from his girlfriend in the hopes it will rekindle his creative juices. Perhaps inspire him to write another best-selling novel and prove his best years aren't behind him. A continent away, a mysterious woman investigates the whereabouts of an artifact her family has hunted for centuries. With the help of a New York City detective, she finally finds what she's been looking for. It's in the home of Tyson Parks. Meanwhile, as Tyson uses the desk, he begins acting strange, violent. His writing is more disturbing than anything he's done before, but publishers are paying top dollar, convinced his new work will be a hit, and Tyson will do whatever it takes to protect his newfound success, even if it means the destruction of the ones he loves, even if it means his own sanity. I found this a thoroughly enjoyable book. In fact, you notice it doesn't have many tabs, but I answer that in a tab place. And this is what I kind of felt, how I felt, probably about a quarter way through the book. Some books I read carefully, highlighting, underlining, tabbing pages. Others I fall into, and I keep meaning to underline, etc., but I can't pull myself from the story long enough to do so. This is the latter. Fracassi is quickly becoming my favorite author. And that's true. Okay. Last year, as you know from my little aside earlier, Boys in the Valley was published, and I actually got to go up to a book signing in Richmond, Virginia, and got a copy signed. This is my signed copy. It is not my reading copy, which is somewhere around here, so I don't have my tabs or my notes from this one. But Boys in the Valley was a great, eerie novel, and I do recommend it. Especially if you like anything like a possession story, get this book. St. Vincent's Orphanage for Boys. Early 20th century, in a remote valley in Pennsylvania, here under the watchful eyes of several priests, 32 boys work, learn, and worship. Peter Barlow, orphaned as a child by a gruesome murder, has made a new life here. As he approaches adulthood, he has friends, a future, family. Then, late one stormy night, a group of men arrive at their door, one of whom is badly wounded. Occult symbols carved into his flesh. His death releases an ancient evil that spreads like sickness, infecting St. Vincent's and the children within. Soon, boys begin acting differently, forming groups, taking sides. Others turn up dead. Now Peter and those dear to him must choose sides of their own, each of them knowing their lives and perhaps their eternal souls are at risk. So, great read. I read it as soon as I got it. I don't think I put another book down for it, but I finished the one I was reading prior really quickly. And finally, almost finally, I said I saved the best for last. Philip has referred to this in his afterword as his cursed book. Well, if that's the case, I hope he has more cursed books, because in December of 2022, I read A Child Alone with Strangers, and I absolutely adored it. Henry crept into my heart early on, and he found a place there. I still think about this book over a year later. I still remember this book well over a year later, and that's rare for me. Usually I'm like, book? I don't know her. This book was beautiful. There is a part in here, again, Henry, that just made me want to sob. I recommended this book to 2 colleagues at work. Both of them read it, and both of them loved it. And let me tell you about it. Also, I highly recommend getting this book. It is so worth it. One day, I will reread this. When 9-year-old Henry Thorne miraculously survives an accident that claims his father's life, he finds himself changed. Upon waking from a coma, he can now read people's thoughts, see their feelings. While Henry recuperates and grapples with his newfound abilities, his family is compensated a small fortune by those responsible for the accident. The highly publicized case catches the eye of lifelong criminal Jim Cady, who hatches a plan to kidnap Henry for ransom. When Jim's plan goes into motion, Henry is taken, hidden in an abandoned farmhouse surrounded by miles of forest, while Jim and his crew wait for the drop. But upon arrival, Henry's abilities alert him to something surprising and horrible. They are not alone. Henry connects with a strange force living in the woods and uses that bond to wreak havoc against his captors. Unknown to Henry, however, is that the ancient being has its own reasons for wanting the interloper gone. There's something hidden beneath the house, tucked away in the dark, damp root cellar, waiting for its return. Obviously, if you listen to that, you will know that if children being harmed or being in danger is a trigger for you, this is not the book for you, except it absolutely is, because this is a beautiful, beautiful book. I 100% loved it. I would love to spoil you on it, but I can't. I will read a few snippets, some of my favorite lines. Okay, just one probably of my favorite lines. Okay, two. Alright, so, but Henry was already at the door. No hugs today, no rides, thank you. Sometimes alone is better, even when you're sad, or when you really are lost. Or perhaps you really are broken after all, because who loves a broken doll? No one. Whew, okay, and this is the part that made me want to just sob, and I'm surprised I didn't. I'm not going to read the whole sentence because it might spoil something. He says quietly, sadness and loss hiding behind his love for the ghost, for all that remains of the man he once needed more than anything in the world, the man who took everything, the man he could forgive, that he would always forgive. Child Alone with Strangers. A Child Alone with Strangers is so beautiful that it holds a special place in my heart, along with Henry. And it is also so beautiful that when I found out they were offering numbered editions, I pre-ordered. Now, they also did, I think, lettered editions, or I forget. Anyway, they also issued Levidian Press. Also printed a $500 copy of that. I did not get that. I withheld. I restrained myself. This one was not $500, but it was not cheap. So, love this cover. This is an illustrated version. This is the outside of the cover. And this came in Friday, and I wasn't expecting it. I had been looking at my tracking. It was all like, you know, oh, still waiting for it. The shipper was. Still waiting. And then it just showed up at my doorstep. So this has illustrations, not a whole ton of them, but I couldn't let this one go. I had to have it. Especially, there is a character in here. I won't show the picture because that will spoil. And they finally picture it. It's not how I envisioned that character. I had something a little that Philip Fracassi probably wouldn't like, but I loved my vision, and I loved that character, who I can't tell you about. But this is such a special book that I absolutely had to get a copy, even if it cost a pretty penny. Now, I kind of wish I had the $500 one, but I cannot afford it. I should not. I can't afford it. And I should not afford it. So, anywho, this was the one that was missing from my weekend books. This is going in a special place in the house. I am so excited that this came in. I love this book so much. And I think you would too if you like horror. It's just beautifully, beautifully written. It is by far one of my favorite books. If I read it again, it would still be a favorite of this year. But I've got a lot else to read. Anywho, that's my On a Whim author spotlight. I hope if you have not read Philip Fracassi, I highly recommend it. Gothic's great. Boys in the Valley is great. But this beauty, buy it. Ask your Barnes & Noble to order it, or your local bookstore, or ask your library to order it. That's all I've got. Happy reading.